Hello, everybody. It's Saturday, October 16th. Welcome to the Plus3 Futures and Commodities Show. My name is Ben Maldonado. As always, I'm here with my partner, Barrie Hederachi. How you doing today, Barrie?
Doing great, doing great.
Yeah, you had another great week, that's for sure.
It was a very good week for everybody. I think you had a good week, and
Yeah.
whoever's following, they should have had a good week. So yeah, it was a good trading week. Let's just say that. It was a
Right,
good
but we move on. We're on to the next one, right? That's history.
Mhm.
It's all about what you've done for me lately. So let's see what we can do heading into this interesting week we have.
And speaking of moving, take a look at Bitcoin,
Beautiful thing, huh?
eh? Well,
Yeah,
it's moving.
when we were talking last week and the weeks before, as we got above, and held this full square here, we said, look, we should be good to the half square. We
Right.
got to the half square, failed, but held here and then just rocketed higher right to the full square.
That's right.
And the most bullish thing now is that, it's not like we paused and had bars that were going back and forth. We now have a bar that's fully above that square.
Right. So that
And
level now is super, very important. And what is that level? 60?
yeah, it's around, 59, 550,
Okay.
59.
59 and a half, let's call it.
Yeah, if we stay on top of that, fully expect new all-time highs and a run to this, half square in the 68.4 area. So
Mm-hmm.
we were bullish down here. We're bullish right here for now. Obviously, you got to, manage your risk if you're in the position, but Bitcoin looks good. Good sign for risk.
Yes.
So let's jump over to your big five, see what transpired this week and what that means from a strategy and probability standpoint for us.
All right, let's take a look at that.
Mm-hmm. There's the mini.
There's a mighty mini.
Bouncing off the support.
Bouncing off the support. Let's pick it up where we left off. Well, we set up that bracket last week using these numbers to your right.
Mm-hmm.
And well, we talked about 4360 being the balance point. And you can see Tuesday, Wednesday, the highs were right at the 4360 area. We were banging up against it. And Thursday, we crossed it to the upside right here. And right there. Well, and Thursday, we shot up right up to the 4424, which was the resistance level. And Friday, we shot right above that. So once we crossed the 4360 balance point, it just left. And far as trading levels go, we know on Monday, Tuesday, we didn't get down to 4290, which is a sign of strength. And the fact that we took out 4360, that was a second signal sign that it's strong, and the rest is history. We broke out to the upside. Looking at the path forward, though, it's going to be interesting. We have, these are all lower highs, and we're going to look at a couple of new levels that I pulled out of the work that we do. And let's see, to the upside, we're looking at 4490 being the next resistance level. And that's not too far. And it's right in there with that 4500 level. But a lot of the resistance that I saw in the geometry and the squares were between 4480 and 4490. So I think 4490 would be the key. And as far as support goes, if the market is halfway strong, then this 44, 23, 24 area, it should be support on any pullbacks. It looks a little tight, but it needs to be tight. So this 44, 24, 90 bracket is what we're looking for. We can say it's firm above 24, and strong above 44.90 going into next week. 44 being resist, 44.90 being resistance. So those are the two levels to watch. And I would even go out and say, if we take out 44.24 next week, we're probably going to go visit 42.90. So it's one of those weeks where we're probably going to run if we get past one of these levels.
Yeah, I mean, I concur with you 100%. In looking at the ES, it really is a decision week. I don't think we're going to chop around and sit here. It's either got to get up and go, or it's going to roll over hard.
Right, and,
I mean,
watching these levels will help you sort of bracket that, see where we are.
Right, and it really is. I mean, in my work, it really looks like a coin flip this week. I mean, it could go either way.
Yeah, it could. Oh yeah, it could go either way. We do have ABC coming out to a completion here, so that's something to keep an eye on. I don't know if we hit that, or did you look at that? Well, it's right up there, so it's right in the
It's 44.80, I think, which is right where a square is. I'll show.
It's right around 80 exactly. So I would say, and knowing the ES is going to run a little bit, so I'd say between the ABCD and the 44.90 area is the area to watch. If we get past that, then I think we're flying. Else, watch the 44.24 for reversal.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Good levels.
Good levels. Well, we'll see. So far, so good.
Yeah.
And going on to the weekly, I've had this drawn out. If you guys go back and look at the older videos, this 44.88, been there for a while. So we're coming up against that. And again, the 44.88, figure 89, 90, it's all in that, all these levels are stacking up in that level. And it's not 45, it's really, a couple 10, 15 points below that.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll watch for that. And I also have a trend line getting up in there. So that's the area to watch for resistance next week, no matter how we slice this thing.
Mm-hmm.
What else do we have here? This is a calendar day chart that we used to watch. And I think we got away from looking at this. Let's see, what do we got here? 45. Well, I remember we had a 45, pretty much a 45 by 45 at the high. Remember that, Ben? That's what.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Alert to that. Now, if we look at that, then we have a 45-day high to high setting up next week.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something to also watch. And that would set up something like this. So we have a 45 high to high, and we have a 45 low to high. So low to high. And that's kind of a pattern you have to really watch. And that's going to trigger, Monday, Tuesday.
And we also have some other cycle hits, Barrie, that are middle of next week. So it's all, that's what I say, this week is a key week coming up.
And when they, line up like that in a couple of different ways, you want to watch it. So I'm just putting it out there because that's something we got to watch. And we have the levels, we have price and time levels to watch there.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to bonds. Well, last week we talked about this 59 area being retested and to measure the strength or weakness against that. And what happened? Well, we got above that, and now we're sitting on top of it, which, 59 being the support. And bonds are clearly in a downtrend. This is not exactly in a bull market.
No.
So let me look at the squares here where we. Yeah, so we're looking at that support area at the half square. We went under a little bit, and we're looking for some kind of a retest of the 59.04. It looks like 59.04. We had it for like several months now. I think we got it up here when we were trying to break out. We were using this 59 number as a breakout level, which it worked out well, and it worked out all the way to here. Now it's kind of crisscrossing, and when that happens, I stop using it usually normally, just for health and hygiene reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we probably need to go a little higher. So maybe around, we'll go to 160, pretty much where the highs were. Yeah, right around 160, 19 or so. I think this is the very good level. If you look back, we have a low that we tested back in February of last year, and we had this high in May. So that's a fairly solid line. I think that's probably the active line at this point. So it's around 160.20. And the other level to watch would be 157.14 for support. Right in here. So I think that's a bracket for bonds for going into next week. We got 160.20 up here above us. And if we can get above that, I think then the downdraft is probably over. And if we take out this 157, of course, we're going to go into new lows. But I would leave it as that we're making lower lows and lower highs. Bonds are in a downtrend, so pick and choose your spots. We're bearish on bonds for now.
Yeah, I'm gonna highlight bonds in my segment because it's a sell setup, a pretty good sell setup this week.
Yeah, well, especially up against this 160
Yep.
20 area up here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And looking at the weekly, well, we're kind of crisscrossing the half square here.
Hanging on for dear life.
Well, again, this is a balance point, right? I mean, here's a full square run earlier from 2018 all the way into 2020. We did the full square. Now we're back in the half area. So that's usually we're trying to pick a direction, eh? So we're kind of stuck in this, but that's a level to watch, which is 158, 159. That's where that level came from. So we'll continue to watch that, but we're going to switch over to that new levels just to keep the slate clean and then from decent levels. Let's take a look at gold. We gave a balance point of 1765 last week. And for the most part, after we broke out in the early part of the week, we held above it. And Friday we're closing right above that.
Yep, testing it.
And I think we can hold above this 65 level. I think we can start moving higher. We have a little bit of a trend line there. Now we might come a little bit lower to test this little consolidation here. So even down to 56 is okay. Give it about a $10 leeway. And to the upside, I think to really we can use this trend line here. We'll have to break that, in order to really establish a trend to the upside. So until we do that, it's sort of coiling up, and we'll just stay with that 1765 number as a balance, being strong above, weak below, and support at 1700, and the resistance is 1832 to bracket the week. Let's look at the weekly. So we added some trend lines to point out the triangulation that's happening, and we're smack in the middle of it. Not much to say other than
coiling up
and be careful in your picks. Wait till it starts showing some strength or weakness, right? So just stuck in the middle here in the bigger picture. And so that's gold. Let's look at crude. Crude's been the easiest chart to work with this year.
So
no trouble, no guesswork. Everything's just perfectly moving. Last week we left off with 77 being support on any kind of a pullback. And then we talked about the half square being ideally, if we can hold above the half square, that market's in a strong position, and we basically held above that for most of the week, and 82 being our sort of the target, and we met that and exceeded it. So I think it's doing okay. Nothing to nothing to worry about unless you're peeling off some profits from earlier. And for this week, if we're strong, I think we should be able to see at least 90, and adding 91 as the next target, long as we can hold above 82. So the next bracket for next week is 82, 91. And ideally, any kind of pullback should be holding above this around, let's just say 79 for the half square. 79 to 82 is the zone to hold, and 91 being the target. If we clear 82 next week, early in the week, we're probably going to hit, move higher. There's really nothing above that till we get into the 90 area. So that's a nice thing. The other reason to be bullish is that the ABCD completion really didn't do much at all. Just sort of laughed at it and just moved on. And we talked about that earlier.
It was more of a pause for a couple of days than anything. It was no weakness.
Well, and the other thing is, it wasn't just that. We had this square that showed up, 36 by 36. And what did the market do? Got right on top of it, which again, that's bullish. So
no question.
So it's doing okay. Not much to tweak. And looking at the weekly, well, we got above the 72 square, which was around that 77, 78 level, and we're moving higher. Not much to do. Just trade away.
Enjoy the ride.
Enjoy, and the direction to trade, right? So yeah. That's that. Another thing we've been bullish on, the dollar. There's a nice channel the dollar has been working for a while. And last week we talked about 93.70 being support to hold. And we held the level pretty much to the tick.
Multiple times, and we're kind of holding above it. But I think, we're also mid-channel here. If you look at the channel that we drew in. So if we can hold above this 93.70, I think we can certainly go up and test the half square around 95. That would be the next natural sort of the evolution, right? Unfoldment there. And there aren't any big squares that I see. We had the 90 that came up, and not much, no big reaction. We're kind of grinding right through it. So I think we're okay there. Weekly dollar chart, just to take a quick look. We drew in this little channel last week, and we're bouncing. The highs are starting to show up along that channel, and of course we're a long way from the lower channel, so this is why we got to sort of watch it in here, and that's why we have these tight levels to watch for strength or weakness. So in the dollar, that would be 93.70, mainly because the weeklies are pushing right up against here, up against resistance on the weekly chart, but bullish above 93.70 at the bottom line. Looking at the euro, we left off with support at 72 and looking for weakness below that. And, we messed around a little bit and doing a little bit of a counter trend, 2 days out, inside day. Looks a little weak. Trend is clearly down, but it's on support. So I would think the next trade would be not to the upside just yet, but to see if we take this out or not. The 72 down, and to get a watch, on your side, you guys should be watching to see if your systems are giving a sell signal or not. And if that sets up, this is the area we need to break or hold the upside. And also watch for false breaks too. The Forex is notorious for that.
Plenty false breaks. And the thing is, dollar's bumping up against resistance, but kind of holding the line. And here we're bumping up against support. So, And especially the weekly, like this 90 square, we ran up 90 by 45 pretty much, pretty close to it. And now we're, we retrace back to the 50% of the square, which is normally solid support, and it did find it for 2 weeks straight. Now, after bouncing off of this level for a couple of weeks, and if we take it out, that's I would label that negative and bearish. So for now, it's sort of a deciding point. That's the level to watch. So we have to see what the market action tells us on a daily basis. That's all I got. That's the cover for this week. And
Excellent.
Go look at your grains and metals and everything else.
Good review.
Thanks, Ben. Well, there's the NQ. What's happening there, Ben?
Knife's edge. I mean, this is why I've been saying that this week is pretty critical, because a lot of things are at balance points or decision points. Barrie calls them balance points. I call them decision points. NQ is no different, right? We had this, sharp move lower, found support at the half square. We've had an ABC up almost, and we're sitting right at and closed just above, a hair above the full square. And so this is a decision point, right? Are we going to continue up and be able to sit on top of this, which would be very bullish, or do we fail here at this full square and take another trip down? And if we do take another trip down here after failing here, it would be another lower high to go along with lower lows. Most likely we're going to take this out next. That's what odds would favor. So
and what's
early
the square, the level up there?
Yeah, they're all these are also updated on the spreadsheet. It's in the 15, 120, 130, 140 area. So right in here, right
Okay.
where we closed. So Sunday night we want to watch it and see how things go, as well as take notice of it during the week to see if can we get up on top of that full square and keep the bullish move going. Well, price is going to have to tell us, because right now it is truly a coin flip at this point. Let's go to the next one that I wanted to show you real quick. Barrie did a good review, but much like he was saying that 4480 to 4490 area is really critical, you can see here we've got a full square at 4480.
Right.
So it's, again, another knife's edge decision point that the market has to make. Are we going to get stuck under this, which is going to mean we're extremely vulnerable to more downside, or can we push through and sit on top? As you've said multiple times, Barrie, knowing the ES, it's probably going to push through because it always goes a little further than you think. The question is, can it sit on top, or does it push through, stop a bunch of people out, or get a bunch of people long, and then they pull the plug? We'll know very early in the week, Sunday night, Monday, whether, which way it's going to go. We just have to watch, wait, and then react. But that's the story on ES. The first one I wanted to look at was
bonds.
30-year bond.
Mm-hmm.
Barrie spoke a little bit about it. We were watching and we've been monitoring this formation for months and talking about it and saying how, it was trying to decide what to do. Well, once we broke out of the channel and lost this half square support, became bearish on it, this pullback this week is not a bullish pullback. It is a bearish pullback. We're getting stuck under the half square. We're testing that broken channel from underneath. Bonds are in a weak position. They look like a sell. They look like we're going to go lower. As long as we stay under this half square, which, again, you can refer to the spreadsheet, but let's see, it's in that 160 area. As long as we're below that, we're in a weak position and a vulnerable position. And it's calling for, weakness in bonds and going down here and testing this full square, like in the 156.5 area. So negative on bonds, think it's actionable, think this pullback failing at this half square is a signal that, you know, there's more weakness and more pain for people that are long the 30-year bond. I mean, and that kind of fits with your analysis too, Barry. I mean, I don't think you have anything different.
No, it's basically the case.
You just have different go levels, but it's not until we can get above that level you posted, I think, which was 159.5 or 160 that I have. It's, you know, it's vulnerable.
Yeah, the upside I had, the 160.20.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
So,
all in the same neighborhood.
Same neighborhood. Let's go check out the grains now, which took some heat this week, but we could have had a nice pivot happening.
Mm-hmm. There's wheat.
First one of wheat. Yep. You know, we've been very bullish on wheat. As you can see, not only has it not been in a downtrend or correcting, it's mainly been a sideways consolidation where prices, you know, staying near the May highs that were made, and then we poked through in August and actually made a higher high. But this week we did see some weakness. There was a crop report on Tuesday that sort of shook things up and got flushed out a lot of sellers. And then we had an inside day and a strong up day on Friday. Provided that we hold above this September low, you know, we're in a position where if this thing can take out this high, wheat can fly.
You know, if you look at that last week's low, being the C of an ABC, we have a Gartley setting up to the upside.
That's true too. Yep.
The high last high, and
yeah, let's put it in so everyone can see it.
Nope, the high at the high. No, the other high, first high in August high being the X.
I got you.
Yeah. And right there. Thing with wheat is Gartleys are everywhere.
They are. They're all over the place. But they're good to notice.
Yeah. So it could, you know, it's got plenty of room to run if we take out
that's what I
that
say.
B.
We take out this high on this next move up, we fly.
Yeah.
And that's the setup. So it's a good setup, high probability setup in wheat. What do we like about it? Is we've got a nice stop point, you know, where you can either take it the low here, or you can take the half square and set your stop somewhere in here. As long as we stay above these points, it's very bullish.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to its cousin corn. Little different formation, because you can see we actually did have a pretty substantial pullback off of the May highs. But based on the way the pattern is played out, and as long as this low here in early September holds, setup is bullish again. We've
another
got
Gartley setting up there also.
another Gartley. Yeah, we can go here, 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 here. And so if we've reversed up off the crop report low, we're above the half square here, take out these highs, that would obviously break this downtrend line, and we're heading, you know, we can head up towards the full square here.
And change the trend.
Change the trend, exactly. So we're looking at these patterns as sort of corner trades, you know, where we identify a spot where probabilities favor that we could have a turn, like the downtrend could be over. We try to get involved, you know, as early as we have enough evidence to conclude that, and give ourselves a proper risk reward ratio to where if we're wrong, it's okay. We're not going to get killed, but if we're right, the upside is tremendous. And that's what wheat and corn are showing right now. The laggard in the group of grains is beans, but let's take a look at beans, because we had some interesting developments in beans as well. So you can see just by the size of the downtrend, it's a lot more severe than corn, which was a downtrend, and wheat, obviously, which went mostly sideways. But what did we see? We saw the crop report really push down hard on this, and look where we stopped.
Mhm.
It's important for two reasons. One, it's a half square, and two, it's right near the highs from late 2020. So structurally, there's support here. Geometrically, there's support here. And then we saw a nice reversal off. So a good test for beans is going to be, how does it do at this half square in that 1240, 1245 area? Can we push through that? Can we push through this downtrend? If it does, there's a good chance we've caught the turn here. If not, we know where our get wrong is and get out point is. It's right here. Right off that half square at the low on the crop report. So this is the least bullish and most uncertain of the three grains. But as you can see, there are sort of glimmers of hope in this chart that this is turning along with corn and along with wheat. I know you were looking at beans with me this week, Barrie. What comments do you have?
Well, I know one thing, we're 108 days from the high.
That's right.
And from the lower high, we're 108 degrees down. So that low that you're talking about is an important low. That
Good.
pivot there.
Yeah, that's right. Very good geometry at that low. And
now we do have an ABCD a little bit lower, but we'll have to wait for that. I mean, let's see how we take out the trend line or not, or that square above us. What's the level there, Ben? Your full square up?
On the full square up?
Up, right? No.
Right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 1241.
So I think confirmation would be that, or break it, taking out the trend line, as far as the entire trend changing, right? So those are the things to watch.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned the square on the daily. In my notes, I have we're 120 by 108 at the lows.
Right.
And that's a good square.
Yeah.
That's a potential trend ending square. So let's see. Now we have to see what price has to say about that. And based on that, we'll make our moves from there. So that's it for the grains. Let's switch over to the metals. First, we look at gold. Similar look to what you had there. The little twist that I have on it and the difference here and why I'm sort of excited with this is, again, as long as we stay above this low here and the low here, we are in a bullish position on gold.
To break out.
Yes, that's right. And the moves out of these consolidations, and especially a year plus long correction consolidation we've seen in gold, tend to be violent. If you have trouble getting in on something that's moving, you have to look for ways of, with a good risk reward ratio of getting in. And I think this pullback here in gold, if we come back to here or anywhere in here, for me personally, it presents a good opportunity to try and get positioned for a long, knowing that if I'm wrong, you can either use the half square, you can use the trend line, or you can use the swing low here. But either way, you have to find points where the premise you went in for is now wrong. You got to get out. And if you do, no problem. You live to fight another day. If it holds and we turn up, much like the grain charts, there's a lot of room to run here. We'll be breaking this downtrend line. This triangle, points to up above 2000, which would be somewhere around here. And that's a realistic run for gold. So you can see your risk on the downside could be this much. Your potential on the upside could be this much. It's a good balance.
Of course, we're not advising people to take these trades. We're just talking about what we're seeing.
Exactly. Talking about what we're seeing, talking about risk rewards, talking about support and resistance and the setups. And
everybody has to do their own work to develop their own trades, of course.
Absolutely. The idea is to show you setups and then you decide what to do with them. Let's look at gold's cousin silver, because it's also looking like in a bullish position. It's actually even a little better than gold. You can see we made a spike low here on silver on that day they flushed both silver and gold in August. And then we actually made a lower low here. But look what happened when we made that lower low. Immediately rejected and headed back up.
Right. So that's the false break that we always talk about.
That is a false break. Perfect example of a false break. And not only was it a false break, it was a false break on a half square at 2150. And if you want to look even further left, it was a false break with all the lows late last year. So it was a nice clean out low, it looks like there. We've had a good thrust off. The initial thrust, failed at the full square, pulled back. And now we've pushed through, and Friday's close, we sat on top of this full square. And that's in the 23, 25, 26 area. So silver's looking bullish. We've broken the downtrend. We're sitting on the square. It looks like probabilities are favoring higher prices for silver coming up. Any other comments you have on silver?
No, I think all the metals are doing pretty much what we've been seeing on the charts and projecting forward. Well, the most talked about chart that between us last week was the breakout in copper.
Right.
And you've been called. You called for that 2 weeks ago. You called for a break in that to watch out. And not sure if everybody follows copper, but I think we should probably take a look at that.
Sure. Let's.
That was like textbook break from all these triangles you always talk about, right? You always talk about, hey, these triangles are forming and they're breaking, and there it is.
And there it is. I mean, I wasn't going to show it because it's just, there's what I try to do is well, yeah, exactly. I try to highlight markets where the opportunity is still there, not like posted after the fact. Hey, look what we did last week. You should have done it too. No, you try to put the charts out where there's an action to take. Here, the action is you got to wait now. If you're not involved, you wait. You see what kind of pullback you can get. Can you get a pullback into support like the half square? And then you can get involved. Or do we break through the full square to the upside and sit on top, and then you can get involved again? But the reason we were talking about copper was sort of it tested the top of the channel, pulled back higher low, came up, got stuck under here, another higher low. And then once we broke through here, we said, you got to get involved, right? If you're looking to be in copper, once we break through here or break the channel, you can see an explosive move. And there you have it. Mm-hmm. And this is what we try to do. We try to look for formations and look for structures and look for levels where, okay, if you're wrong, you risk maybe an eighth here, right? See these dotted lines here. Maybe if you try to get in here and you don't get it, you get out with a little loss.
Hey, where's that support level up there? The half square.
The half square. That's about 457.
Okay.
And the full square is like right around 480. I mean, it certainly looks like, copper's set to go to all-time highs, whether it does it, like this move continues, or we get some sort of inside days and pullbacks and consolidations or something. It's very bullish. The setup's bullish. You can say the correction is over, and now the next leg up has started. So that's what we try to look for and try to get involved with early before the breakout happens. Let's take a look at crude. Barrie spoke about crude, and I'm just reiterating it and showing the levels. The main thing I want to show people here is how we use these squares and how they can help you in your trading. This scary pullback, right? A 1 day major pullback. Look at where the low was. Half square, 75. We break out of this square. For 3 days, they tried to take this thing down, right? Look where the series of lows were. 1, 2, 3. 3 days in a row, they test the full square, end up closing well off of it. But that tells you it's very bullish. When you can't get even like a wick below the square, time and time again, you see that. Or for the other side, the flip side is you can't get a wick above the square. Look what happens, right? Mm-hmm. These give you a good clue that, hey, the buyers are in control here. Hey, the sellers are in control here. They're pushing but can't get above. And so we use that information to help us, assess risk reward and assess possibilities. Now, since we've held this square, the half square is pretty much a layup. We should see 84 this week. And if it handles that well and can move higher, above that, like Barrie said, he was looking for 90, 88 and 3/4, 90 looks like the next stop. So it's just an example of how to use the geometry when you get it set up properly to help you make those decisions on the fly. Like, okay, is this a good spot to sell? Probably not. Everybody's panicking here, but price is holding the square. So it's why we're bullish on crude based on, the actions of price and why we continue to think that, crude's going to give us higher prices. Let's check crude's cousin, natural gas. This is one, we've been talking about all summer and was a big winner for us. The reason I hadn't put it up for weeks is, we kind of saw that things were going to be correcting, things were going to be pulling back when we failed up here at this, multiple attempts to get on top of this full square here up in the, 630 area.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've been vibrating around this half square. And this is kind of, for the Ellioticians out there, kind of the wave 4 type action, big up, big down, but going nowhere. The reason I'm posting this is I think we're getting close to the end here. Lower time frames are showing us some things. Higher time frames are showing very, very bullish formations. So we're on the alert for, re-entering positions in that gas for the next leg up. Not quite yet, but it's definitely a heads up that things are starting to turn more bullish again and less towards the correction. I know you've been looking at gas too, Barrie. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I'm looking for now, watching, looking for a re-entry in here.
Yeah,
and just sort of following what you said, just trying to find a spot and letting it settle out a bit. So, but he certainly is bullish still. So,
yeah. I mean, one of the things to notice, look at where the balance point. You call this half square the balance point or the decision point. The price action again is above where most of the price action is above where these previous highs were.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when you get that sort of consolidation, I mean, here's an example back here from the summer in July and August. We made a high, consolidated, made another high, and then this consolidation again is above, or right on that previous high.
Mm-hmm.
That gives you confidence that it's the resolution is most likely going to be bullish, and that the odds are in your favor.
And the initial run up where you were all loaded up. I mean, that has the signs of sort of a blow off, but we have to confirm that because in bull markets, every impulse looks like a blow off, and that's people get faked out early on and miss out the entire move. So I think it's good to stay alert here and not write it off as, oh, it's a done deal. Right? I think that's what we have to be careful of. Know that, the moves are sharp, but also keep an eye out to see if there's what's left in the move.
Boy, that is gospel. And if I was a new trader, I would write that down. They go higher than you think is even possible.
Yep.
And if we could remember that as traders and take advantage of that, it just saves you a lot of heartache. When you see you sell something at 12 after it's come from 4 and you think you're a genius and it goes to 30 or it goes to 40. I mean, that's what bull markets do. They go to extremes and they always go higher and longer than you think. And so if you can remember that phrase, it'll save you a lot of money and a lot of heartache. So the key thing this week, I think, is a lot of markets are at decision points. We have, timing from the squares, and we have a cycle hit middle of this week. So there's going to be a lot of really important moves that we think come out of this week. So we're on alert. We're looking at the levels, and we're
We're
you know,
getting up early.
getting up early, and sometimes you have to stay up late. Like
That's right.
couple weeks ago, Barrie said, "Hey man, I think we got to get back to looking at the market at 2 and 3 a.m. because ES is making moves off of the European opening an hour before and at the opening, and
Right.
you have to adapt. And it's not doing it. It hasn't done it the last 3-4 days, but when the markets move, you got to be there and you got to be in position. And that's what we try to do on the show, is identify things that are moving or getting ready to move. So,
and speaking of the show, you guys, if you guys like what you're seeing and if it's useful, please, click the like and share the videos and tell people that might find it useful. And last week, we had the most likes we've ever had. So thank you for that.
thank you very much. Yep.
And that's inspiring. So continue to do that and subscribe and also share. So thank you.
Yep. And we appreciate it. And good luck this week. It's a big week in the market. So rest up and be ready to go Sunday night.
All right. Thanks, Ben. Have a good week.
Take care, Barrie. Yep. You too.